All right, so check it. You already know about the Condor approach, but did you know we have a one-day event coming up in Spanish Fork, Utah, August 1st? We're going to chat about uncovering the secrets of psychedelic integration to stay safe, connected, and fulfilled. If you want to discover how to navigate your psychedelic experiences with precision so that every step you take is aligned with your intentions and desired outcomes, this event is for you. It's just one day. Lunch is included. If you want to learn about the first thing you could do when you return home after a big experience, or why so many people slide backwards after a few weeks or months, how to find the right facilitator for you, the process that you're in, what questions to ask, how to share your wisdom and insights with those around you in your community, how to bridge the gap from the Western medicalized models and these ancient practices, your own unique framework that goes beyond just traditional methods or medicalized methods, and how to take your integration skills to the next level so that you can be a catalyst for change in the lives of others around you and really help to destigmatize and educate your community, then this is for you. So again, August 1st, admission is $297. We go from 9:30 a.m. until 7 p.m. in Spanish Fork, Utah. It's going to be an amazing event. If you want more information, I want to send it to you. So head on over to Instagram, The Condor Approach. Shoot me a message whether you want to come to The Condor Approach, a one-day event, or you're not sure. You're like, Kole, I don't know. You do all of the things. I get it. So book a call with me. Yes? Or you can go to learnmore.coach. Book a call with me. We can go over all the things and find the right fit for you. Let's get back to the episode.
Whether you're a life coach, therapist, biohacker, invested in wellness, or in the healthcare profession, if you have an intention to work in psychedelic spaces, you're in the right place then. If you're called, get involved. But first, get informed. Let's talk the 4 N's: intake, intention, in-space integration. Leading to deeper transformations. Psychedelic Coach Podcast, Kole. Walk you through the process, it's all possible. Leave space for the follow through. Most importantly, integration is not optional.
So today brings part 2 of the 3-part series, What Substance When, which was taken from a coaching call about, it had to have been 3 summers ago, give or take. 2020, summer of 2020. I think that you're going to love this episode. This was a live call with coaching clients, actually with facilitators, and I did pull out their names and their voices just to protect them and for anonymity purposes. But you will still get a lot out of this episode. If you didn't check out episode 1 of this 3-part series, go back to last week, check it out. It's good stuff, and I'd love to know your thoughts. Would you like more of this information? Y'all are awfully quiet out there, and as Ta and I are renegotiating where our time is being spent, if you're not getting a whole lot of value out of the podcast, let us know and we will pull it back. I've only been putting out 1 episode a week just because I don't know if it's summertime, but numbers have contracted quite a bit and there's only 2 of us and we're still building a whole back end for our existing coaches. We've got our next event coming up here in June. So there is not June. We're already in July. Coming up in September, which is the last one of the year, which is the last opportunity to get grandfathered in to basically lifetime access to us in the training program. So if you've been on the fence, y'all, now is not the time to dilly-dally. If you go to learnmore.coach, you can book a call with us because things are changing as they always do. And from a financial standpoint, we have to change things on the back end to support the growth and who we're here to serve and how we're here to serve them. So I hope you enjoy today's episode. As always, today's episode is brought to you by Ka Empathogenics, my favorite master teacher to microdose right now. It's totally legal, totally safe, according to their website. Make sure you read it first. No SSRIs, no SNRIs, no MAOI inhibitors. I'm currently running a microdosing group container with it. I'll be reporting more about that afterwards. We're just kind of testing it out. See how a lot of these psychonauts feel about the subtlety of Ka Empathogenics, also known as Kana. Anyways, that's enough on my side. Let's get to today's episode. I can't wait for you to check it out. Peace.
I get very mixed feelings with MDMA and MDA, and I'll tell you why. Because to get pure like lab maps, quality, making sure you have testing kits, whether it's that you're taking it or you have friends taking it, so you actually know what you're getting. I personally, with some MDMA that we had, when we took it out to use it, something in my body said no. We got it from the same place we always do. And we didn't use it that weekend, but another group did. And all of them had a terrible hangover experience of it for a week. A lot of people like to do MDMA or MDA before mushrooms to open their heart, to ease them into the experience. It can be powerful for sure. And there's other ways to get people into their heart besides such strong serotonin releasers. If someone's had a history of depression or anxiety, giving them a very heart-opening experience could be powerful that night, but afterwards, they could have PTSD from their depression. So the fear of then, oh my gosh, I'm depressed again, what am I going to do, can spiral them emotionally or mentally out again. And that night, they might say it was incredible, but someone's journey isn't just the night of. Someone's journey is also, what has their experience been the week after? What has your experience been like the day after ayahuasca or the 3 days after? Some people don't have contractions until day 3 or 4, or up to even 5 days, 6 days before they really contract and feel low. So they may think, no, this plant is great for me. It gives me everything that I need. But then for 5 days afterwards, they've got the shakes, they feel sick, they feel very hungover. And so being able to have those kinds of discussions with people is important, because they may not even realize that the experience is impacting their health afterwards. And there's other ways, and there's other plants, and there's other ways to get into the heart through breath work or meditations as well. And the other thing, journaling afterwards, really your first 4 years minimum. What's the general state of being, right? Do they have headaches, exhaustion? Are they feeling low? And being able to discern words. If someone says, oh, I was depressed. Were you depressed, or did you have low energy and didn't feel like doing anything? And in the past, that was with depression, because those someone can reattach to, I have depression. And so they have a big expansive experience, but then the rigidity of this diagnosis can tie them back down and actually say, I have depression again. And then they can spiral out from fear. They could use the exact same supply every time, the same amount, the same everything, and have a completely different experience. My general rule of thumb is 3. Any substance, if I have tried it 3 times and it has still, I feel exhausted, I feel tired, I completely contract in, then for me, it's not my plant for the time being. Marijuana was that way for me. For years, it was an ally, and then it wasn't anymore. And I went through a year where friends were like, no, because you need this strain, or you need to do this, and it's because of this. And so I was like, okay, for sure, until I finally realized it's just a no for me. The amount that I had to go through to try to make it work didn't make any sense. And so if someone's going into an experience and they're like, no, it's fine, you just have to take magnesium and do this, and then afterwards go get an infusion and your vitamins, and it's like, that is a lot of effort, right? That's a lot of energy. That is a lot of money. That's a lot of effort to make something functional. And at some point, it doesn't have to be that hard for something to be pleasant, right? Or to be beneficial for people. And so even if something as pure as it could be, even if this is why every plant is not for every person, all of the time. And it might be today and it might not be tomorrow. And sometimes the only way that you really learn that nuance is through your own experience and through varying it, where it's like, cool, so I'm going to try this species of mushrooms. I'm going to do just a 1/4 of a gram today. And then next week, I'm going to try 1/2 of a gram of it. And then maybe a month later, I'm going to try 1 gram of it, and give yourself some opportunities. If you're new, if you're new to psychedelics in a journey capacity in the last, I would say 2 years, up to 3, 4, if you haven't done it very often, having a practice where every time you do it the same way you would with any journey, you set an intention, you set the container, and then you feel into the nuance. Because quite often people go into the harder, faster, more now. Then when they try to back off, they say nothing's happening. But it's because they're literally walking through life. They have to get knocked out of orbit in order to listen, right? Physical health crashes, financial crash, relationship crash. We call it the transformation trap. And so it's unless they get taken out of control by some huge universal force, then they won't surrender. Part of learning the practice of surrendering and allowing is doing it a little bit at a time, a little bit of breath work, right? Maybe going for a walk, doing things to allow yourself to relax into the experience will teach you significantly more. It takes a tremendous amount more of effort to actually start less as far as learning and continue to increase it and have to practice surrendering and practice allowing, having one foot in and one foot out. And I'll tell you, it can be agitating because you're not fully in the experience, but you're not out of the experience. You might not be able to focus or concentrate, or if you had stuff to do or whatever. And if you want to hold space for people, it is one of the most important works, in my opinion, that you can do, because you start to really understand that experience when, 1 gram for you might feel like 4 to somebody else. And for you might do 4 and that's someone else's 20. And so everyone doesn't take the same dose, but you can approximate and you can start people at around the same place. And then the species matters and who raised it and how clean or what soil types they use. All of that stuff matters. And so the clearer you can get in where you're sourcing things from, the clearer you can understand it yourself. It's like going to a country you haven't been to before, where there's like a city hall. So it's like driving through a town, but you're staying out in the village 20 miles outside of it. Driving through the village, you might have seen town hall and you might have seen the pub, but you still don't know the language. You still don't know where you can get a sandwich or where you can go find specific things. And so it takes getting out on foot and walking around and exploring and taking some side alleys and doing some exploration. Then you will learn the land. You learn the surroundings. Psychedelics are very similar, in my opinion, because that way, when someone's telling you what they're experiencing, you actually understand it. Again, it's not required. I know the difference that it makes for the space that we hold and the depth that we can go to as a result of us knowing the landscape. So here's some microdosing generalizations. If someone's looking for more creativity, more of a feminine, flowy movement, bringing a bit more creativity in, psilocybin's great. If someone's looking to explore getting things done, very direct, very masculine, then LSD. If someone's looking for creating a little bit of space and clarity, Wachuma or San Pedro. And so a 20th of a party dose or a social dose for most substances is the best place to start. When something is a microdose, micro means subperceptual. So you may slightly notice a little ripple in the force or in the field, but you're not going to feel very altered. So that's what a microdose is. When you start to be able to actually feel it, you're getting into the mini dose range. Mini dose would be like 1/4 gram in my generalization. Again, this is general. This is not rules, and it's variant on species, but it's somewhere for people to start their exploration. So 1/4 of a dose may be like a hike dose for a first timer. So it's outside, but they're still very steady on their feet. Because remember, even at 1 gram, depth perception is quite different. So going out in the woods with someone that isn't say, physically very connected to their body, because their body can do the work if they're used to it. The body is habitual. So if it's used to hikes and rocks and trees and stuff like that's one thing. But if you're going out into the woods with someone that doesn't do it often, their body doesn't have the habits of even uneven ground, right? They're walking on asphalt and sidewalks and things that are very linear and very smooth. That matters. So then I would be thinking, if I say a friend wanted to go out in the woods and they just wanted to mini dose and go out in the woods, I'd start at a quarter or a half max, because their depth perception could shift. I personally broke my leg out in the greenbelt doing such things. So this is actually a thing, speaking from experience, not just trying to make shit complicated. And carrying someone out of the woods for 2 miles, well, I didn't have to carry, Todd had to carry me. It was a journey all in itself. I'm not going to say it wasn't an interesting journey, but depth perception changes. And again, you can always add, you can't subtract. And I can't tell you also how many times someone went out into the woods with a friend where they both mini dosed. One person was like, I can handle a gram. And the other person, I'll just start at a half. And then the person that did a gram ended up in an existential crisis that the new person didn't know how to navigate because they've never been there before. It's all a learning experience, right? You can learn, but if you're going out in the woods, go to smoother paths first. This is all new. Depth perception is new. You may actually be able to see clearer than you've ever seen, but your brain is taking in way more information than your awareness of what your brain is taking in can be a lot. And so just remembering, even as we go through these conversations, that there's so much that you still don't know, and that's perfect, which is why I want to continue to have these dialogues and these conversations, because that way as things arise, you'll at least be like, oh yeah, I remember when Kole said this, so maybe this is coming up here. Or maybe if I try this, that might help. Or maybe in my own experience, something comes up and you may think of something to consider. The guides and the teachers Ta and I have had, 2 of them have been doing it for 40 plus years, facilitating, okay, 40 plus. And so not only did we have mentors with a tremendous amount of experience, but also we worked with a few different facilitators in our own healing and in helping. So I could see how people did things and why they did it the way that they did. And so if where you live, there's a group that you can help support, say, can I just come, even pay to be there? I just want to observe. And for most places, they want you to participate until you've got pretty solid rapport. But being of service is one of the ways that you learn in ways that I really can't describe. And that can look like a mini dose to no dose at all. So what I did, I spent 2 years just going and being of service every single month, 3 groups a month, and didn't take anything. I wanted to see, can I feel like into the field? Can I actually drop in without anything? This was 4 years into my journeying, right? 4 years and probably 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 25 journeys, 26 journeys, somewhere in there. My first couple of years, I didn't journey that often. It was like the first year was only twice a year. Second year, I think, was 3 times. After that, I did quarterly. Then I started going and helping, something like that. And so for the first 2 years that I was helping, I would just go and watch until afterwards sit and ask the facilitators, so what was going on there? Or how would you handle it if this happened? Or has this ever happened? Like that kind of dialogue from people with a lot of experience. And then asking them why they use the plants and the substances that they do. So part of the reason I love mushrooms and I love San Pedro, Wachuma, is because they both can grow anywhere. Very sustainable, very fast growing, and they don't have any detriment to the environment the way that other plants and animals do. Because the thing with Kambo, the thing with 5-MeO is at our current usage right now, we're looking at endangered in 2 years, in high endangered level by 4 or 5 years, possible extinction. With the Sonoran desert frog, it lives under the hardened mud of the desert for 9 months out of the year. And it's not something that procreates quickly. They're not easy to get to, and most of them are along the border of Mexico. So this is where there's a lot of drug cartels and stuff like that. It's quite dangerous to get them. And everyone that I know says, oh, no, my person gets Cambo and 5-MeO from an ethical source. But everybody says that, so it can't all be true, right? It doesn't mean we should or shouldn't. It's something to consider. We have so many other power plants and allies and ways to access things. We don't have to do it that way. So unless someone is having some pretty serious infections or things where nothing seems to work in Cambo, maybe it may help them to just reset their entire body. But again, a lot of times people are looking for the fastest way, which doesn't change their eating habits when they go home. And 30 days from now, they need Cambo again because they are participating in the same shit that caused their body to be where it was. And so knowing those things ahead of time of, okay, so what's different if this is purged out of your body tomorrow? Let's say you purge the disease out. You reset your entire immune system. What changes the day after? What food changes, environmental changes, stressors are going to have to be different so that you don't end up in the same place? And those conversations are what are rarely had before journeys. And that's with anything. What changes, and this question, write this down if you're writing things down. What changes tomorrow if you find exactly what you're looking for? What changes? Because people can get caught up in the, I want to know why. And then I'll say, okay, so what will be different if you know why? Then I can change it. Okay, can't you change it now before you know why? Like the why can be the trap of all plant medicine, self-work, all of it. Is why, but I want to know why why I'm doing this to myself and eating sugar every day. I could give most people 3 answers just from their intake form in the why, but that doesn't change the what. What next then after? And so there's a distinction and the difference between why am I doing this and where does this come from? I would like to understand where it comes from in case there's something that needs to be resolved. So the difference in how Ta and I approach things than most psychedelic facilitators, we focus on what do you want to create, and then let's call in anything that may be in the way of you actualizing that. So if you say, I've changed my diet and I don't understand why I'm still not able to lose this weight, like it feels like my body just won't let it go. Great, then let's find out why the body is holding on to it. That's different than why am I eating sugar? Do you see what I mean? There is a difference because if we find out there's a childhood experience of, say, sexual trauma where after that happened, then the person started to put weight on as a protective suit of sorts to make them either less sexually attractive or maybe that won't get as much attention, then the why is important because that may come in. We can do some healing work, some release work or whatever they're processing. Now they realize why their body wouldn't let go of the weight because it was protecting them. But they don't need it anymore. They don't need that protection. Now they have tools and they know how to draw boundaries. So it's no longer necessary to carry the weight for protective mechanisms. I've had people come into a journey, have a big realization. We say, cool, what changes tomorrow? I'm going to tell my body every day, I feel light. I feel free. Not, okay, we can lose weight. I feel light, I feel free. I feel light, I feel free throughout the day, whatever the mantra looks like, however we anchor the experience. And then it's not uncommon within a week for someone to drop 10 pounds if they're carrying 30, 40 plus pounds that they haven't been able to lose no matter how hard they worked out or what diet they tried or whether they did keto, paleo, intermittent fasting, straight fasting. I've had people not lose weight after fasting for a 72-hour. So these are the questions that the difference is when it's not about fixing something. It's about what do you want and what might be in the way of it that also changes how you hold space for people. Because if you're going, well, I want to help you figure out what's wrong with you. I want to help you understand what's wrong with you so you can fix it, so you can be better. That is already starting from a shame space. So just to summarize a bit up until now, if someone's feeling very chaotic, giving them something that creates chaos, like it can be like putting a tornado in a hurricane. So if they're feeling really chaotic, putting them in a mushroom experience or ayahuasca can be giving them more of the same and make them actually feel less grounded. That doesn't mean it will, because they could bust through the other side of the chaos and get clarity. But again, if you're not very versed in these things, don't start by giving someone more of the same that they're already having. If they're sped up, what can you do to slow them down? If they're very rigid, how can you bring flexibility, breath, things to bring some more expansiveness if they're very contracted or if they're very rigid or they're very tight? Someone can come into an experience and go, I don't have any expectations. They'll say, Kole, I don't have any expectations. I hear this all the time. I don't have any expectations. Because people, we can't help it as humans. We hear stories and comparisons and we still create an anticipation. And then someone will go, I just feel disappointed. And I'll be like, what's under the disappointment? What are you disappointed in? I didn't really see anything. Okay. Do you remember at the beginning you were really nervous, so we took you lighter for your first time so that you could see that you actually were safe? Yeah, but I wanted something to happen. Yeah, no. Next time. Because if someone goes into an experience and they're really scared and they're really nervous, they can contract more and it can make it harder for them to relax into it. That's why doing breath in and the drop-in period is somewhere between, let's say, if you take mushrooms and you grind it up into a powder, this is actually my preferred way to give it, that and chocolates. And I'll tell you why. When it's ground up, the drop-in is much faster. It can be a bit more chaotic, but it tends to not prolong that kind of like power struggle a little bit. But that's why starting less is really important, because it can be really confronting for someone to all of a sudden feel like they're getting altered. So if someone has control issues where they're like, oh, I hate losing control. I'm scared. I'm not giving them powder. It's too much too fast. That can be traumatizing. So putting it in something like chocolate, something that's a slower absorption is actually better. Ease it in less. You can always add more. And so if someone's doing powder, it can set it in 15 to 20 minutes. And then there's something called lemon tech. Lemon tech is when you add lemon to the mushrooms. That starts to break it down faster as well. If someone's new, please don't lemon tech them. Because again, there's too much out of context they're not used to. And it can feel like a wave is coming over them. And it can actually create more fear, more uncertainty, more, oh my gosh, it's here. And so it's really something that comes with more experience after at least someone knows that they're safe with the explorations. So I wouldn't lemon tech someone or probably even give them powder till their third or fourth time, because then they've at least got some familiarity with the process. Oh, this is the drop-in, and it can be a little bit chaotic for 30 or so minutes. And then I say that it can be like Alice in Wonderland. Alice is falling down, the rabbit hole, but her feet will touch the ground. Do nothing except for wait until your feet touch the ground. Then things will start to open up. If you can surrender and not grab on or try to hold on to any thoughts, it can be random stuff's getting spit out. The more your brain tries to reach for meaning and make it, the more it causes the pendulum to swing. Think about it like monkey bars. If I reach over here because my brain is trying to hold on to what it knows, then I pull all the way over here, but then inevitably it's going to swing over to the other side. So whether it's happy things, sad things, scary things, whatever, the more you try to attach to one, you'll end up swinging to the other, because it literally creates a pendulum. And so having someone, or in your experience, being able to just breathe and reminding someone, just stay with the breath until you don't need to focus on the breath.
Integration is not optional.